Hi, hello everybody. Welcoming everyone to another episode, another series part of Design Reflections by Sissy Jam Flat Glass India. Why we are here is what I think everybody by now knows. People who are joining us for the first time, let me tell you, it's my pleasure to welcome you all in today's live session for Sissy Jam, which is called the Design Reflections. And Design Reflections is something that reflects about the past, present, and future of designers and architects, telling us about their journey into design and also talking about glass and reflecting upon glass. So let's just welcome our guest for today. But let me tell you a little about myself. I am architect Himani Ahuja. I am the co-founder and communication specialist for One Digital. One Digital basically leads through PR and communication in India, creating brand stories for you. Let's welcome our guest. I will add our guest and then tell you a little about our guest. Meanwhile, we all can wait and see. Hi, Simran. How
Hi,
are you?
good, good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Design Reflections by Sissy Jam Flat Glass India. Let me just tell everybody a little about you before you can lead through and tell us about yourself
Yeah.
in depth. So, we welcome our guest for today, who is Simran Boparai. She's the founder of Space 5. Simran is a designer who started this at a very young age, and along with her partner Harkaran at the firm, she is the principal designer at the firm, and she looks after luxury residential design and is leading the wing with multiple people following her throughout now, and she is also an awarded designer. Let's welcome Simran. Thank you for joining in, and I would love for you to kind of have a little more detailed input about what Space 5 does and about yourself.
So, Space 5 is basically a firm which was co founded by me and my brother, of course, architect Harkaran. So, we largely believe in developing a lot of luxury residential villas. So, that is what our forte is. That's what Space 5 is. So, when you talk about Space 5, I think you talk a lot about the kind of architectural style that I have, a flair for classical architecture, a lot of big villas with a lot of grandeur, luxury. So, all those things I think put together, they reflect in our style and in our design language. So yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Thank you, and we welcome Space 5 and you for the live. Let me tell you a little about Sissy Jam and our audience. Sissy Jam is Europe's number one glass producer, and they export in around 150 countries and operations in 14 countries over four continents, establishing their global presence. They are one of the top three global producers of glass, and which is their main business lines with more than 85 years of experience. They're here in the glass industry with a strong expertise, with a workforce of over 22,000 people, earning a revenue of more than $3 billion, right? So we are here at this platform, and we are doing this knowledge share on design reflections. Let's know if glass is important or not, and we lead through. But before we start, I would want the audience to know a little more about you. So tell us, about your early years. How did you get into design, and how did you decide to pursue this field of architecture?
See, actually, when I talk about architecture, I started thinking about it at my very young age because my father basically, we belong to a family of all realtors. They are into real estate. So, from very childhood, I've always been seeing my dad coming up with those big plans of the colony and just laying it on the floor and telling and asking us, Simran, so what do you think about this plan? So I remember those days, and that was the time where I think I developed a keen interest for architecture, and I was like, okay, this is something which I'll definitely, because that is something I've seen throughout my life. So you can say I was pretty young, and when I knew what my passion is and what I actually wanted to pursue in life. So that's how it all started, and yeah.
Okay, great. I mean, starting from an early age, and it's interesting to know how you developed your craze for design.
Yeah.
You were asked inputs at an early age. I think not many of us would know, get that chance and, that in-depth knowledge from scratch. Okay, great. So, like now, in the recent times, we've seen that, architecture has started opening to various different forms of practice, right? So how did you decide that luxury residential design is something for you, and maybe not streamline into commercial spaces or public spaces? How did you create this niche for yourself?
So again, I would say that one of my early project was the design for my own villa for my father.
Right.
So one of my first project, I was studying in my second year of architecture, and
Wow.
that's where that project.
Yeah.
And so they told me that, yeah, this is one. Sorry. So they told me that this is one of your early project that you have to deliver, and I was like very keen on, of course, designing that. So once I did that residence, it took me around 2 years to complete that. I was in my fourth year when I just handed over that. So I feel that was the time being my first project. I learned a lot through it, and I kind of developed a lot of interest towards the residential architecture, you can say. I
Right.
did some of commercial also in the early start of my career, but that is something that never resonated with me. So
Yeah.
something that I am more passionate and inclined towards was the luxury villas.
Awesome. All right. So, since you said that you designed the villa, I want to understand that, there's so many trends that keep coming, right?
Yeah.
Every day we hear something or the other that this is trending in design, this is trending in architecture. So, what, according to you, are the recent trends in architecture? And, do these trends really affect what you design and your design specifically, or do you believe in creating your own trends?
See, definitely, I believe in creating my own trends and exploring my own style, and to have my own design narrative is very important. That's what I think always defines an architect or defines an interior designer.
Right.
Because if we look at the trends, I think trends is something which are always evolving.
Hmm.
They keep on changing over time. To
Right.
pace some trends is important, but at the same time, to have your own creativity of mind, to come up with your own ideas and trends and be a trendsetter. That's what I would say to everyone. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, are there any specific trends that you would like to suggest that, okay, this is what is trending right now, or this is what you are using in your designs currently?
Okay, so if you have seen my designs, I feel that I am more inclined towards classicism, more of classical architecture. Maybe I can say that I'm inspired from a lot of Greek and Roman elements of design.
Right.
So that which is my personal style, my taste. And but even when a lot of clients, they come to us, there are very few which will come with the demand of a contemporary style of architecture. A lot would say that we want something which is similar and very timeless, that never fades away with time. And so they tend to have a lot of inclination towards the European style villas. So that is something which I have realized from my clients itself, that they're more inclined towards that particular style these days.
Right, right. Absolutely. I think that is a different, take on how to bring
All
classical designs now in the current era, right? Okay, so let's just throw some light on the topic that we're here to talk about, which is basically the evolution of minimalism and glass, right? So, we've heard a lot of myths about glass and, using them, especially in residential spaces, because we've always seen glass effectively used in commercial spaces or public spaces. But, how, in today's light, do you think you would describe minimalism and, getting the topic that we have, which is basically evolution of minimalism and glass in
yeah.
luxury residential design, which is your forte?
Okay. So minimalism, Himani, is defined by more clean, more straight lines, wherein you have, I would say, to incorporate in my villas, of course, yes, you need to have those big, huge glass facades. And as you know, that after COVID, largely the trend of biophilic design has taken up. So biophilic, obviously, I would like to tell everyone here, because not that in a layman's language, I could say it's something which is very close to the nature. That's what a biophilic design is. So when I talk about glass, when you give those big fenestration, big windows and huge glass, you're able
Yeah.
to experience a lot of nature, and you feel nature as a part of the interiors of the house. You feel like a connectivity between indoor and outdoor spaces. So I think that is where the glass has the maximum use. And yes, to come up with that sort of design, to follow those lines is very important. I mean, the
Right.
overall aesthetics of the villa depends a lot on your fenestration, depends a lot on the type of glass you're using, and also to revolve your design around a concept. Let's say it's a biophilic. So that will all be weaved around the type of glass you choose.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, like you said, that it's a material that brings outdoors indoors, right? So, what other qualities do you think, glass really brings being a complementary material for a minimalistic design, apart from, its nature to bring nature, indoors? What more do you think glass can be used as in terms of a design structure?
In terms of a design structure, it can add to the aesthetics of the villa also. For
Yeah.
example, I'm using a villa with a lot of cantilevers. I'm using huge facade wherein I want big fenestration, big glass. So it can play a very important role with the aesthetics that ways. And apart from that, if you're using glass, you're obviously out of the hassle of using those wall coverings and using that. So it
Yeah.
kind complements well with other materials and also reduces the burden of selecting so many other materials on the panel.
Right,
That-
right. So, I mean, I think these are the benefits of, the new movement where now people are open to using glass as well. So, according to you, since now we are talking about architecture, what is the kind of interior design that would really complement something which has a minimalistic glass exterior?
so what's the question? What would be
It's
the minimal?
basically, what is the kind of interior design that you think would go along,
Okay,
minimalistic glass in exterior?
okay, minimal. So interior design, of course, I feel that interior and exterior are very correlated. So if
Yeah.
you have used glass and all, I feel that minimum the design that you should use in the interior should also be aiming towards more clean lines, more simpler lines, not that so much of so much of detailing, I would say, like big that's not something which would go really well. In order to complement something which goes with a huge glass facade, would be more simpler, would be more vertical, I would say, and would be more towards straight and modern lines. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So, I mean, talking about spaces that you design, like, you talked about classical architecture. So do you think classical architecture can also be minimalistic in a certain fashion? And how, like you said, natural light and nature are also intertwined
Mm.
with, bringing glass in our spaces. Is it possible to create a better experience, using glass in different forms?
Yes, of course. Why not? I mean, classical architecture has got a different edge altogether. How? Because today it's not just classical. It's
Hmm.
lot. It's a, I would say, fusion of maybe classical and neoclassical elements.
Right.
So say that with that sort of a concept, glass does play a major role because you need to give those big windows, huge fenestration, lot of double heights in order to bring that complete storyline. You can't restrain your mind to very narrower glass. So you need to have big glass facade in order to bring the entire concept in a way that it looks modern as well as classical, like a fusion of different elements. That's where glass would definitely play a very big role in classical style. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like you said, glass plays a huge role in kind of intertwining these things. So, what kind of, in what ways do you think for the future it'll open up, different possibilities for designers and end users specifically?
See, in the long run or in the future, what I feel is that a lot of people would be preferring more of glass facades. Of course, why? Because a lot of people today they want. Firstly, of course, I told you after COVID, you feel you want to have a space which is very close to nature. You want to experience outdoor, indoor, and of course, at the same time, you want that the overall vibe and the look and feel of the place should be something which is not very complicated, I would say, which is more towards simpler and cleaner lines.
More comfortable, and
For
easing you
peace,
out for a longer period of time,
yeah.
which you were not spending earlier at home, right? So absolutely. So I mean, does it impact, like, the modern designs today in any which way? Like, absolutely, glass, you said, is an important material now, which is used in even smaller things. If I talk about cabinets also, you have glass, right? When you talk about partitions, you have glass. When you talk about exterior spaces, you have glass. So, how in the long run do you think it impacts the modern design of India? Do you think it is adding value to a modern India?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, see, glass is again, of course, playing a very important role. And when you're talking about modern style of architecture, I think that is where it's all about the kind of concept, the storyline that weaves around modern elements, in which glass is a very important role. And when you see a lot of huge blocks in the elevation which are just popping out like big cantilevers, so that's like a block and just the glass. That's what you see, very clean, very minimalist, and very straight line. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, talking about straight line, minimalism, and glass, can you share like a couple of examples from your projects? Like one you shared about the villa that is coming up. Maybe you can tell us a little more about different typology or spaces that you are doing in luxury residential design that, varies from each other. And there are different uses of glass, and how they've used in an innovative fashion. So, the application can be very clear to our users as well on how modern India and modern reflective luxury design is using glass.
Okay, so you want to know particularly about the villa that I'm doing, right? That's what I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, and also, maybe any other project which is probably a different style, which is not a villa. Maybe
Okay,
it's a bungalow, or maybe it is an apartment, so that we have a variation of how glass is used in both the
yeah.
projects.
So I am coming up with this new project wherein I am using you can say, a lot of parametric designs, and those parametric designs are complementing the glass facades that I'm using. So it's not like a regular straight facade, but you will see a lot of waves or a pattern that I'm coming up with. In that, I've tried to interweave the glass with my facade in a way that it's one story language, and it's completely out of the box. It's not a classical design. It's like I am actually very much inspired from Zaha Hadid. So
Right.
in that will be revealing soon. It's like on my list, and I'll be putting up its vlog like in a 10-15 days. So it's lot inspired from her design language, from her design style. In that design, you would definitely see that how the glass has played such an important role, that the entire facade, it has got a completely different I would say structural aesthetics. That was one thing. Then of course the material, the parametrics of the material, and then to complement and complete my the glass in that waves and that pattern which I have designed. So yes, of course, that will be one of the big reveal which I'll do soon.
Great. I think we all will be waiting for it, and I think everybody should follow her so that we can actually see that
Definitely.
design and connect to our conversation from today. Also, if you can just highlight a little more about this. So, you talked about parametric design, talked about fluidity of glass that you are using now. Can you tell me a little more on how does the maintenance of such things happen? Because usually we do a lot of things, we try and
That's a
replicate. Yeah.
big I think now it's like a big bomb question for me, maintenance. Of course, something which we have to make sure that the areas are easily approachable, is accessible. It's not something where like it's completely out of the box. We need to give those sort of access points to them. And apart from that, it's a bit tough question for me to answer. I'm not very difficult how to maintain that. But yes, of course, these facades, they need a lot of maintenance. That's for sure. The more complicated the
The
design.
possibilities are huge, like according to you, because initially we were too hesitant to, replicate something which is inspired by Zaha Hadid.
But
And now doing that in India, I think that's commendable, because I think not many people would be able to replicate such a thing as well. In a space like India, and India's growing on that edge, so we'd be happy to see that project, come up. Okay, so what is something that you would like to comment on, which, as an advice that you would like to give young designers who are also starting up and wanting to make a difference in architecture domain?
See, so to all the young designers, I always say, it's very important that you follow your passion. Firstly, if you are a designer, you must have been into this profession. If it is coming completely out of your heart, it's that one thing that you're totally passionate about. It's something that has always inspired you. For me, I feel architecture and designing has inspired me through and through. That's why I'm here. So even the young designers, they should keep themselves completely up to date with the latest trends in design, and also try to experiment and create their signature style. I would say that's very important, to have your own style. That I look at that particular image and I can say, yeah, this is done by Space 5 or XYZ. So that is something. To have your own style is very important. That's what I would say to all the young designers.
Great. I think, yeah, even I feel that's absolutely important to create that niche for yourself and to, follow up with your uniqueness in the domain, right? Okay, so tell me, since you've been designing since a couple of years now, what is your design reflection moment? That is when you felt, okay, now this is my breakthrough moment. Like, this is my
Yes, too
moment.
early to say. No, no, no. It's too early to have just started. I can't say that. I can't comment on that. It's
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's fine. I think we will wait for another session with you in a couple of years to know what your
but
reflection moment is.
thank you for having me over. It was lovely talking to all the young designers and everyone who's watching.
Thank you
So,
so
thank
much.
you, of
Bringing
course.
back
Yeah.
design, basic
Thank
minimalism and glass would be
you.
our day, and I think it's going to be a timeless trend that stays with us on
Yes.
and on. And we'd be happy to assist everybody who's also messaging us saying that how they can contact you.
Yeah.
So you can obviously
Thank
follow Space 5, and you can obviously have Sissy Jam Flat Glass India help you reflect those creations as much as possible. Thank you, Simran, for joining
you
in. Thank
so
you
much.
for sharing
Lovely.
reflections.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, everybody who joined us for today's session. I hope we were able to do justice on, how minimalism is an ever growing trend. And even if minimalism doesn't remain, glass is always going to be with us for future. So thank you, everybody from Sissy Jam Flat Glass India. Let's keep reflecting.